Hello everyone, thank you for being here with me. Today I am excited because I'm going to be ranking one of my favorite filmmakers' animated movies today. I'm specifically doing Tim Burton's animated movies because he has some of the most world-renowned and famous stop motion films, and if you do not know, I love stop motion. It is a dying media. The time and energy and dedication and craft that goes into stop motion movies is just so amazing and mesmerizing. So stop motion movies have a special place in my heart, and like I said, he has some of the most famous ones associated with him. So I'm going to be ranking those today, and also I just kind of prefer animated movies in general. It's kind of my thing, so I decided this would be a good ranking video to do since I already ranked every single Laika movie and all of their movies are animated. Tim Burton has a mix of live action and animated movies, so today I decided that we are going to rank and discuss Tim Burton's animated movies, and we are going to be ranking all of the animated movies that he is associated with that are mostly animation. So even ones that he just produced or, did the stories for or helped create, I'm going to be including those ones as well. You will see later on why I am making that specific notation, because he did not direct some of these movies, even though some people might think he did. But without further ado, let's just get started. Okay, so number 5, I am going to be talking about the movie number 9. It is literally titled 9, and it came out in 2009. The most iconic thing about this movie is probably the release date, because it came out on September 9th, 2009. That's probably the best part of this movie, because this story and even like the CGI of this movie is just not it. Like, I really do not like the story of this movie because of the main character. And if you do not know, if I do not like the main character, then I do not love the movie. That is like the biggest thing to me. And this main character is an actual villain that wants to be a hero so bad. Like, he's giving main character syndrome. Like, he's giving pick me girl, all of that. So essentially why I think this is because there is 9 of these like steampunk, almost sack of bean, like little humanoid characters that are in this movie that are created by the scientist. The scientist also happen to create this villainous like AI machine that can like pump out other like villains. Essentially, it's kind of like a huge like AI robot that can create machinery at the drop of a hat. So he made this for good, but of course the people that were in power abused this machine and used it for bad. So the world, essentially the earth, ends up becoming destroyed. It becomes this wasteland where all these machines are in power and taking over, and there really isn't many humans left or any sign of life left on the planet. So the scientist does all that he can to curtail this machine that he created and put a stop switch on it, so it is not working in the same way that it used to, and it's not pumping out these machines at a crazy alarming rate. And also at the same time, he puts his soul into these little steampunk figures, and there ends up being 9 of them in total. So the last one, number 9, is the protagonist, in my opinion, antagonist in this movie. And he is, again, this wannabe hero that comes into the world. And essentially the synopsis of this movie is that he ends up killing like all of his family, humanoid, colleague characters. That's like the synopsis to me of this movie, because every single decision he makes is just absolutely dumb. Like, worst decisions ever in this movie, and ends up pretty much killing all of his friends and family, all his other fellow beansack figures. So he comes into this world and is in the wasteland, and he first encounters number 2, and number 2 actually tries to save him, and within him trying to save him from this wasteland, number 2 actually gets caught up by like a machine demon cat and gets taken off into its lair. And number 9 decides that he is going to go after number 2 and help save him, even though he just came into this world. He knows nothing about it. He knows none of its lore, how dangerous it is, whatever, but he decides to take a fellow character with him, number 5, to go and save number 2. And while they're going on this adventure to save number 2, they find this lair, and this lair happens to have the villainous machine, the fabrication machine. That is like the machine that can pump out these like machine babies at an alarming rate. And so they end up finding this machine, and somehow number 9 ends up turning it back on, and it is now back to life, and it now is able to pump out machines at a crazy rate to where there's literally going to be like absolutely nothing left on the planet besides the villainous machines. And again, this is all like number 9's doing, because he's just quirky and doesn't know what's happening, and like he means well, but he accidentally just turned on this villainous machine. And it's okay though, because he's gonna figure it out, and he has a good heart and he has plot armor. Like, no, I just cannot stand him. I could not stand number 9. He ends up in the process literally at the end killing like number 2, number 5, number 1, number 8, and maybe number 6. And I am not just like hating. Like, even if you look on the fandom Wikipedia, it literally says that this character dies due to number 9's thoughtlessness. Like, due to his thoughtlessness, this character dies. And this happens to like 5 of the different characters. It happens to like number 1, number 5, number 2, and number 8. Like, there's multiple of these characters that have been living for God knows how long, living in their little pack, their little clique, under the leadership of number 1. I will say that number 1 is like a little like he's a little bit too like power trippy as well, but at least, you know, he cares about his people, and like he was doing what he could to have them survive and try to save them from the wasteland. But here comes number 9, and within, I don't know, a span of 48 hours literally kills like all of number 1's colleagues and comrades. So they pretty much forgive him in the end. Like, there's this cringy scene in the end where all of the angels of these fallen characters are in like a kumbaya circle, essentially like thanking number 9 and being like, it's okay, you know, now I can live free and I can go to heaven or whatever. And like they fly up into the nanosphere. Like, what? No, absolutely not. Like, based on number 1's character throughout the rest of the movie, like, I cannot see this man who was like a very, you know, stark leader who cared a lot about his clique and like, you know, was doing whatever he could to protect them, is now thanking this random dummy that just came into the movie and didn't know anything about anything and caused all this chaos and turned back on the machine that they were all trying to not turn back on, and literally, like I said, killed pretty much his whole family that he was, you know, living with for how long. And now he's like thinking him at the end and being like, it's okay. And number 9 gets to survive still with number 7, like the queen female. She's a queen, so this isn't about her. But yeah, number 9 now gets to live on after causing all this destruction and chaos. Like, I guess in the end, he was able to kill off or defeat the fabrication machine, but like, that wouldn't have even been a thing if he didn't come along. He's the one who restarted it up. The power was turned off, and he was the one who brought it back to life. So I do not like the main character in this. I did not like the ending. I didn't like how it ended up. I didn't like how they just like, you know, were thanking him in the end. Anyways, yeah, it was just not it. And then the CGI also for 2009 was just not up to par in my opinion. Tim Burton did not direct this one. Honestly, I was kind of like questioning even putting it on here because it was directed by Shane Aker, and Tim Burton just happened to come across this short film in a film college. It was a short film made by Shane Aker in his film university, in his film class, and Tim Burton happened to come across it, and he really liked it, and he's the one who actually is the one who like greenlit it and said, you know, let's make this a full feature film. So that's why I included it, because Tim Burton is kind of the reason why it's this hour and 20-minute movie, but Shane Aker is the one who like created the story and the characters and all of that, and he is the director. But still, Tim Burton, no, I don't know what he was doing here. Like, I think that they thought like the message behind it was profound, and honestly, like the message of like, you know, AI and robots taking over and stuff, like, yeah, that's been done many a times, but like that was okay. It was more like this number 9 character was just an actual villain, and I could not get past his dumb antics. He was just literally made like the dumbest decisions and got most of the likable characters killed in the end. So that is why it is going in this 5th spot. Okay, so number 4, I feel like is a little bit controversial. Number 4, I am putting Frankenweenie. Frankenweenie came out in 2012, and when I tell you that I was so excited for this movie, like I was so excited because I was becoming a teen at this point, and I actually understood the concept of, you know, movie releases and movie ads and such. So when I saw this movie ad, I already loved Tim Burton at the time based on my love of his other films that I will be talking about later in this video. So when I saw that he was coming out with a new animated movie that was giving the Tim Burton animation style, the gothic chic, I was very, very excited and looking forward to it. So it came out in 2012, and I saw it shortly after it came out. And the reason why I'm putting it in this 4th position is just because it did not stick with me. I remember being pretty bored by it the first time I watched it, and I was excited about it. Like, I was pretty excited for this movie to come out. So saying that is a lot. Also, I do not love the ending of this movie. I think it's because I became very attached to Mr. Whiskers and Mr. Whiskers' owner, because Mr. Whiskers was like the psychic cat who had these psychic poops.
Mr. Whiskers had a dream about you last night.
How do you know?
'Cause this morning he made this.
Oh. Did you get that out of the litter box?
It's an omen. Last month he dreamed about Bob. He fell in a manhole. You dreamed about Toshaki? The day he pitched a perfect game. And Nassar, the day he got knocked unconscious. If Mr. Whiskers dreams about you, it means something big is gonna happen.
That were actually true. Like, this cat was psychic based on the outcomes of its poop shapes. And at the end, they just decided to make, like, Mr. Whiskers a villain, which, for what reason? I did not love that. I think it's, again, because I became very attached to Mr. Whiskers, and they just made him a villain at the end that literally, like, dragged Frankenweenie back into the burning windmill. I just don't know why they had to make the cat the villain. I love cats. I'm a cat girly, so I just didn't love that. But I did love the animation style of this, though. I did love Victor. There's always a Victor character. I feel like all the Victor characters look very similar in the Tim Burton universe. I feel like I should make a video about them all being connected, because I feel like they have to be, because they're all named Victor and they all look pretty much exactly the same and identical. But anyways, I love the characters. I loved, Frankenweenie. It was cute. Victor's family, I let that dynamic was interesting. Victor and Elsa was like a cool little story, but I like the characters overall, and I did like the whole like science project, science fair aspect to it. It was just slow in some parts for me, like him trying to hide. Sparky was sometimes pretty unbelievable. Like, come on, like your mom would hear this and like would know. It was just there was just some parts that were like a bit far-fetched, and then also, like I said, I just did not love the ending, how they made like Mr. Whiskers a villain for like no reason, in my opinion. Like, there was no signs that like this was a villain. I feel like they just kind of like threw him in as the villain because he's a cat, and Persephone and Sparky are dogs. Like, that's just kind of like an overused trope, that like cat versus dog. I don't know, I just didn't love that at the end. The ending was sweet with like the people like putting the car batteries up to Sparky's neck to revive him. I did like that part, and I did like Persephone and Sparky like touching noses at the end and stuff. It was more like the windmill part. I just didn't love that. So that is why it is going in at the 4th spot for me. Also, it's just not as nostalgic to me as the other movies as well, which I think could play a big part, because like I said, I was like already kind of becoming a teenager at that time, and I did not grow up on it, and it was not one of my childhood movies, so that also might play a part in it. But I did watch it a little bit more recently, and I did like it more than I remember when I watched it when I was younger, so maybe it'll grow on me with time. This is just how I feel at the current moment, and the movies above this are just more special and stuck with me more, so that is why it is going in the 4th position. Number 3 to me, this is where I'm starting to get into my favorites. Number 3, it is going to be James and the Giant Peach. This is another one that was not directed by Tim Burton. So Frankenweenie was directed by Tim Burton, but this one was not directed by Tim Burton. This was directed by our Lord and Savior Henry Selick, who directed Coraline. I love Henry Selick as well. If you want me to do a video on Henry Selick, please let me know. I would love to do that for you. I'll probably do one either way, just because I absolutely love Henry Selick, because he gave us the absolute masterpiece of Coraline and this movie as well. So this was directed by Henry Selick, but Tim Burton again was a producer and helped work on it. So I am putting it here still. And again, I love this movie. Specifically, I love the animated part of this movie. I know that this one again is another like one of those cusp movies, because it does have like the live action parts to it, but I feel like the live action parts are short in comparison of the whole movie, and they do not interact with each other. So that's what I don't like. Like, I don't like Dumbo, for example, because the animated elephant is interacting with all these normal like live action human characters, and like the same with Mars Attacks. Like, I feel like that's not a fair comparison to compare to like a completely animated movie, but this one is separate, right? So the animated parts are completely separate from the live action parts. So I was okay putting it in here, because the animated part is like the best part of this movie anyways, like let's be honest. And that was just the best part of the movie to me. When James eats his way into the magic peach, was able to fall off the cliff with it and get away from his evil ants, which are like actually villains. Those ants need to serve jail time. He is in the Peach with all of the insect characters. Oh my god, I love Miss Spider and Mr. Centipede and Miss Ladybug when she's knitting her little fabric. Oh, and Mr. Cricket. I just love all those characters, and they're all animated so well, and they just interact so well with each other. And I love James animated as well. The animated parts of this movie are also stop motion, which of course adds to the movie as well. I will say that Frankenweenie was also stop motion, but it came out a little bit later in 2012, and James and the Giant Peach came out in 1996. And the stop motion is just so good in it, and I just absolutely love this movie. The songs are very good as well. Also, when they're like on the water, like I know water is so hard to do in stop motion, and there's a lot of water scenes in with the seagulls and the stairs going around the Peach. The whole middle section of this movie is just beautiful and done so well, and I think it still stands the test of time, especially because, like I said, it came out in 1996. So much better than the CGI of 9. Like, ugh, no thank you. So I think that's also why I love stop motion. I feel like it's just like so visually appealing that it stands the test of time. So I definitely believe that with James and the Giant Peach. I'm putting in this position because I don't love the end. Like when it goes back to live action at the end, I'm like, not my favorite. Also, even in the beginning too, like the live action parts, it was really hard to honestly to watch the abuse that he was enduring by the ants in the beginning in the live action parts. Like I just don't love the live action parts. So I think that's why I'm putting it here as well, because the animated parts are really what did it for me. That animated part was just so good that I am putting it in my third spot. Okay, number 2, again, controversial as well. This was a hard decision for me, but in the second spot, I am putting The Nightmare Before Christmas. Again, this is directed by the iconic Henry Selick, and it was produced, and the story and the characters were created by Tim Burton. Tim Burton worked a lot on it, but he was not technically the director, which I feel like is a very common misconception. Give Henry Selick his flowers for that. But I love The Nightmare Before Christmas. I feel like also it has become very popular. Like everyone and their sister love A Nightmare Before Christmas now, and I feel like it was not this way just a couple of years ago. Like when I grew up with this, like nobody was really talking about it in the same way. I feel like, I don't know, maybe that is just me, but I remember when I was very young and my grandpa got me the DVD box set. I absolutely loved that thing. I would watch the movie all the time. I don't know where that box set went. I'm very sad about it, but again, I grew up on this movie. I loved it. I'd watch it definitely every year around Halloween and Christmas, and I love that it is both a Halloween and Christmas movie. I feel like that is just very rare, and that is the best one for that. I love the characters. I love the storyline. Danny Elfman knew what he was doing with these songs. Like, oh my god, the music of this movie, This Is Halloween, is an absolute certified bop classic, and Jack Skellington, Sally, the mayor, Oogie Boogie, like the characters are just done so well, and the interaction between them is so good within this movie. And again, this movie is just so iconic. The Oogie Boogie is a scary villain. I remember being scared of him when I was a kid growing up. I was like, they did him very well. He's just done so well, and like I said, you can't really talk about a more iconic like stop motion movie. I feel like this is the number one, so it definitely deserves to be high up on my ranking. I also love Jack and Sally's relationship. I will say that is just so cute. The reason why I put it in the second position, and I feel like the first position outdid this one just by a sliver, is because of Jack Skellington. There is just some character flaws there that I feel like need to be acknowledged. I feel like he is a little bit selfish. I feel like his ego did take over a little bit, in that he completely did try to change the culture and the tradition and the holiday of Halloween Town. The second that he comes back from Christmas Town after being there just like once, and he convinces the rest of the town to do it, and also he was ignoring Sally, and I feel like he was being very rude to her for most of the movie. So Jack had his moments that were not the best.
Sally, I need your help more than anyone's.
You certainly do, Jack. I had the most terrible vision.
That's splendid.
No, it was about your Christmas. There was smoke and fire.
That's not my Christmas. My Christmas is filled with laughter and joy and this. My Sandy Claus outfit. I want you to make it.
Jack, please listen to me. It's going to be a disaster.
How could it be? Just follow the pattern. This part's red. The trim is white.
It's a mistake, Jack.
Now don't be modest. Who else is clever enough to make my Sandy Claus outfit? Next. I have every confidence in you.
But it seems wrong to me. Very wrong.
But overall, I do love him. I do love all the characters, and the visuals of this movie definitely stand the test of time. And the musical score, again, Danny Elfman, give him his flowers. This is just an amazing movie, and I do love it. It just got edged out a teeny bit by this next movie, but it definitely deserves the second spot. Number 1, I'm guessing you could probably do process of elimination and see which movie I'm about to put in the first spot. It is Corpse Bride by Tim Burton from 2005. So this was actually directed by Tim Burton, which again, I feel like that also could edge it out a little bit. This was directed by Tim Burton. It is from 2005, and it is, of course, stop motion as well. But I absolutely love this movie. I grew up on this movie as well, very, very young. Me and my sisters would watch this movie all the time, and this movie is just very special to me. Again, the musical score is so good. The die, die, oh, pass away. That song is just so good. Oh my god, I just like will randomly sing that pretty often. And Emily's song is just so good. And I just love all these characters as well. Again, I love the gothic look. I feel like this has more of the Tim Burton gothic look to it because it is actual like human characters. And again, this is like 100% Tim Burton movie, I feel like. So I love the actual animation of these characters. Victor, again, of course, Victoria and Emily, great characters. Also Lord Barkis, Mayhew, the priest, the underground, the worm. Like, there's just so many great characters in this movie as well. And I will say that I do love Victor. We'll talk about his character flaw a little bit later, but I just love Victor in general. I love how he treats Victoria. I love how he's obsessed with her. I love how he's very shy and demure and cutesy. I feel like he does it well and it's portrayed well. I always love myself a quiet little demure man, and Victor is just it. Like his interactions with Victoria at the piano are just so precious. I also love the parents and how they're animated, and the interaction between them is very believable. So I just love that aspect. And then of course I love Emily and her story. She is just so sweet and iconic. I will say, of course, how Victor did treat Victoria was not it. That was definitely some questionable behavior, but I will say I feel like it was more justifiable, because if I woke up in this like underworld Day of the Dead land, like I would definitely be freaking out too. And if I knew that I could get out, I probably would be trying to get out as well if I was not dead and it was not my time. So I will give Victor a pass. At least he wasn't like super like rude to her. He was really just scared, it seemed like, and he really did just want to, you know, see his family again and get back to the land of the living. So I feel like it's more like justifiable what Victor was doing. I really do not think he was a villain, especially at the end when he was willing to die to be with Emily and drink the poison. Like, no, Victor is my hear me out for sure. And how he treated Victoria as well and wanted to go back to like explain himself to her, like, he was a good guy. Like, he is a feminist anthem. I do love Victor, and I do love Victoria, and I do love Emily. I feel like the three like main characters in this I did all like, which again goes a long way for me. And I think the animation on this was again beautiful. I liked how it was almost giving me Coraline, where like the land of the living was like drab and dreary and very mundane, and then the underworld was like the one that was like very colorful and bright and like phantasmic. Very interesting there. So yeah, I did love that. Again, I love the ending on this one too, where Lord Barkis dies. Like, I love how Lord Barkis was the villain and they did not have some character arc for him at the end. Like, they knew he was a villain and they killed him off in the end. And I feel like the ending was very smart and done very well. I liked how he drank the poison but didn't know it. I feel like it wasn't like a cheap ending. And then, oh my god, Emily gets to finally be released and she turns into the butterflies and flies away up into heaven, into the ether. I love that. And I love how Lord Barkis has to be down there in the underworld and they are getting their revenge on him. I love that. I love a dish best served cold to the villain. So I love that part as well. And again, very nostalgic for me. I've seen this movie countless times. Certified Halloween classic. Love this movie, and that is why it is in my number 1 position. Okay, that is it for me. Thank you guys so much for being here and for watching. Please let me know down below what your ranking would be of these 5 animated movies by Tim Burton. Again, movies are so subjective. This is just my opinion. Please be kind in the comments, but thank you so much for being here with me today and for listening. I will hopefully see you guys all in the next video. Please remember to like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. That is all for me. Take care. Bye.